Ladies and gentlemen, friends, there are moments in life when we question everything, when life doesn't go our way, when doors close, when delays frustrate us, and when we feel forgotten or overlooked. But I want you to pause and consider this. What if those disappointments were not rejections, but divine redirections? What if those delays were not denials, but God's way of protecting you from danger you never even saw coming? You see, we often measure our lives by what we can see, touch, and understand. But life isn't just what's visible. Much of what shapes our destiny lies in the unseen. And in that unseen realm, God is at work, guiding, protecting, and preserving you from harm you didn't even know existed. There are few things in life more frustrating than delay. When we make plans, pursue goals, or pray for breakthroughs, we often expect things to happen on our timeline. We prepare, we strategize, we put our faith into action, and yet sometimes the door doesn't open, the answer doesn't come, the progress feels stalled. It's in those moments we begin to wonder, why the delay? What did I do wrong? Has God forgotten me? But what if I told you that the delay isn't a punishment or a denial, but a form of protection? Many of us are so focused on what we want that we forget who knows what we truly need. God, in His infinite wisdom, sees not just where you are but where you're going. He sees the whole path ahead, every hidden danger, every unseen trap, every threat lurking just beyond your vision. And sometimes the only way to keep you safe is to slow you down, to hold you back, to delay your arrival at a certain place, not to harm you but to spare you. Imagine you're in traffic, fuming because you left the house late. You're annoyed, blaming yourself or others, watching the clock and worrying about being late. But what you didn't know is that 5 minutes earlier, on that very route, a major accident occurred. Had you been on time, you might have been involved. But you weren't, because something delayed you. That's not just chance. That's divine timing. That's God saying, not yet. I'm protecting you. This kind of protection happens all the time, not just on the road, but in every area of life. Maybe you didn't get that job you prayed for, even though you were qualified. Months later, the company goes under or is rocked by scandal. You were spared. Maybe a relationship ended, and you couldn't understand why, only to later discover that the person wasn't who they claimed to be. That was protection. Maybe an opportunity slipped through your fingers, and it felt like failure, but time revealed it would have cost you more than it gave. Again, that was protection. The truth is, if we could see what God sees, we would thank Him for every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every delay that didn't make sense at the time. We would fall to our knees in gratitude for the dangers we never even knew existed. The delay may not feel good. It may challenge your patience, your faith, and your sense of direction. But just because you don't understand it, doesn't mean it's not for your good. Sometimes God doesn't reveal the danger. He just redirects you away from it. He doesn't owe us an explanation. He offers us protection. And the wise thing to do is to trust Him even when we don't understand Him. This is where faith becomes real, not just in believing that God will give us what we want, but in believing He knows better than we do. It's believing that His no is sometimes better than our yes, and that His timing is perfect, even when it feels painfully slow. Faith isn't proven in comfort, it's proven in waiting. The next time you're in a season of delay, I encourage you to shift your perspective. Instead of asking, why is this taking so long? Try asking, what might God be protecting me from? Instead of forcing doors open, try thanking Him for the ones that remain shut. There is power in gratitude. There is peace in trust. You may never know the full extent of the danger you were spared. You may never see the storm that passed by while you were but make no mistake, if God delayed you, He had a reason, and more often than not that reason was your safety, your growth, your preparation, or your protection. We've all experienced the sting of a closed door. Whether it's a job you didn't get, a relationship that ended unexpectedly, an opportunity that slipped through your fingers, or a dream that seemed just within reach but didn't come to pass, it hurts. There's a specific kind of disappointment that comes with something you truly wanted not working out. It feels personal. It feels unfair. And in those moments we often cry out to God in confusion, asking, why would you let this happen? Didn't you see how much I wanted this? But what if the door closed not because God was punishing you, but because He was protecting you? What if what you saw as rejection was actually redirection? What if that no you received was really a disguised yes to something greater. You see, we often think that when something doesn't go our way, it means something is wrong, that we failed, that we missed out, or that God isn't listening. But the truth is, a closed door can be the greatest act of love from a God who sees what you cannot. We look at the moment, he looks at eternity. We see what's in front of us. He sees every consequence down the road, and sometimes in his mercy, he says no. The problem is that we rarely realize the blessing in that no right away. In the moment it feels like a loss, but as time passes, clarity comes. We begin to see things we couldn't have known before. Maybe the job you didn't get would have led to burnout, or placed you in a toxic environment. Maybe the person who walked out of your life would have broken your spirit, drained your joy, or pulled you away from your purpose. Maybe that opportunity that fell through would have cost you your peace, your time, or even your integrity. God doesn't always show us what we were spared from, but every once in a while, he allows us to see just enough to realize that closed door was a gift. There's something powerful that happens when you begin to trust that God's no is just as good as his yes. It means you're not just chasing your plans anymore. You're surrendering to his. You're no longer focused only on what you want, but on what he knows is best. And that's when peace enters. That's when faith deepens. God never closes a door without a reason. He is not careless with your life. If he closes a door, it's because behind it was something not meant for you. Or maybe it wasn't the right time. Or maybe the door will open later. But right now you're not ready. It doesn't mean you're not worthy. It doesn't mean you're not capable. It means God is building something in you before he allows you to walk through that next threshold. Think of it like this. When you walk through a house under construction, it looks messy. Wires hang from the ceiling, walls are unfinished, and dust covers everything. It doesn't look like much, but the architect knows the plan. He sees the blueprint. That's how God sees your life. So when he closes a door, it may look like you're stuck, but in reality, he's still building the next room for you to enter. And when it's ready, when you're ready, the door will open. And it will make sense why the others had to remain closed. So don't mourn too long over the door that didn't open. Don't camp outside of it, wondering what could have been. Instead, lift your head, take a step back, and trust that your Creator knows exactly what he's doing. What's ahead of you is better than what's behind you, not because it always looks better, but because it's been chosen for you by a loving God. The closed door wasn't the end of your story. It was just a page turn so the next chapter could begin. A blessing doesn't always come in the form of something added to your life. Sometimes it's what's kept out. Trust that, embrace that, and let God lead you to the doors that are truly meant for you. Because when the right one opens, no force in this world can shut it. Life often feels like a puzzle with missing pieces. We try to make sense of our experiences, our setbacks, and our unexpected turns. But more often than not, we only see fragments. We see what's in front of us, this day, this challenge, this opportunity, or obstacle. We base our choices and emotions on the immediate circumstances we can touch, hear, or measure. But there is a truth that can transform how we live. God sees the whole picture, while we only see a part. Imagine looking at a giant tapestry from the back. All you'd see is a tangled mess of threads, some dark, some bright, some stretching far across the canvas, others knotted tightly in one place. From that angle, it doesn't look like a masterpiece. It looks chaotic and random. But if you were to step around to the front, you'd see the full design, every color, every twist, every thread, perfectly placed, to create something beautiful. That's exactly how our lives look to God. We may only see the backside right now, but he sees the design in full clarity. It's human nature to want control, to understand everything as it happens. When things go well, we feel secure. When things fall apart, we feel abandoned or lost. But the truth is, even in the silence, even in the confusion, God is working with a full view of your life, from beginning to end. He knows every choice you'll make, every person you'll meet, every season you'll go through. Nothing surprises him, nothing catches him off guard, and nothing is wasted. That's why we must learn to trust even when we don't understand. We may not see how the pieces fit, but he does. The delay that frustrated you, he sees what would have happened if you arrived early. The person who walked away, he sees how their presence would have affected your destiny. the opportunity you lost. He knows what's coming next and how it will serve you better. When we live from a limited perspective, it's easy to become discouraged. We start comparing our timeline with others. We question if we've missed our moment. But when we remember that God sees all things, from every angle and every time zone of our life, our hearts can rest. We're not late. We're not lost. We're not forgotten. We're just walking in a plan that was designed with precision and a purpose greater than we can currently see. Think of a child looking out of a small window during a road trip. The child can only see a few trees, maybe a field or a gas station, and wonders where they are. But the parent up front has the GPS. They know the route, the timing, and the destination. That's what it's like with us and God. We're looking through a narrow frame, but He holds the full map. This truth should bring comfort, not frustration, because if God sees the whole picture, then He also knows how to prepare you. He knows when to withhold and when to release. He knows when to push and when to pause. And because He sees the dangers, the distractions, and the detours, He lovingly intervenes, even when you don't understand it. Faith is not about having all the answers. It's about trusting the one who does. It's about waking up each day and saying, God, I don't know what today holds, but you do. I don't see how this part fits into the plan, but I believe you are painting a masterpiece with my life. Let go of the pressure to understand everything right now. Let go of the anxiety that comes from not seeing the full path. You were never meant to carry the burden of omniscience. That belongs to God alone. Your role is to walk in trust, to move forward with faith, and to rest in the knowledge that He sees what you can. There are moments in life when you feel something deep inside, a quiet whisper, an unshakable feeling, a sudden thought that urges you to act, pause, or change direction. It might not come with fanfare or flashing signs, but it settles into your heart with a weight that you can't explain. You might call it intuition or gut feeling, but more often than not, these are divine nudges, God's subtle way of speaking to your spirit, guiding and protecting you from things you cannot see. God doesn't always shout from the heavens or send thunderbolts to get your attention. More often, He speaks through a gentle whisper, a still, small voice. It may come as a feeling of discomfort in a situation that seems fine on the surface. It might be a sudden lack of peace about a decision you were once excited about, or it could be an unexplained urge to reach out to someone, take a different route, or simply wait. These divine nudges are easy to ignore, especially in a world that moves fast and glorifies logic over faith. We're often taught to only trust what can be measured, calculated, and explained. But God doesn't operate on human law. He operates on divine insight, and sometimes His protection comes not through visible intervention, but through internal direction. Have you ever had a moment where you felt a strong urge to turn around and go back, only to later realize there was danger ahead, or a time when you hesitated on a decision, only to find out later that it would have been the wrong path? That is no coincidence. That is the Holy Spirit whispering, not this way, not yet. Trust me. Learning to recognize and respond to those nudges is part of spiritual maturity. It requires slowing down and listening, not just to the noise around you, but to the quiet within. It means honoring that internal check, even when you can't explain it to others. God doesn't need your understanding before He acts. He only asks for your trust. Too often we ignore these promptings because they don't make sense. We brush them off as nerves, fear, or overthinking. But God's protection doesn't always look like a dramatic rescue. Sometimes it's as simple as a pause that keeps you from walking into something that looks good but isn't right. Sometimes it's a strange resistance to something everyone else says you should pursue. And sometimes it's a deep inner pull towards something you didn't plan. But that ends up being exactly what you needed. You don't need to explain the nudge to everyone. Not everyone will understand why you suddenly backed out of a plan, declined an offer, or changed direction. That's okay. When God speaks to your spirit, He's not seeking a group vote. He's guiding you for your safety, your purpose, and your peace. Trusting these divine nudges requires humility. It means acknowledging that you don't know everything, and that you need a guide who sees beyond the horizon. And God in His love will never lead you wrong. The more you trust these gentle urgings, the more you begin to see how precise and intentional they really are. You'll start to realize how many times you were spared, redirected, or placed exactly where you needed to be, not by chance, but by divine direction. Start to pray for sensitivity to His voice. Ask for discernment to know when that inner feeling is from Him. And most of all, act on. Obedience to the small things often leads to big breakthroughs. What seems like an inconvenient delay or a random change may be the very thing that shields you from harm or positions you for favor. God's not silent. He is always speaking through his word, through people, through circumstance, and yes, through that quiet inner voice. The world will tell you to ignore it, to go with your head, but faith often invites you to listen with your heart, to trust the God who lives within you. There's a powerful truth that often goes unnoticed in the chaos of life. God is constantly fighting battles on your behalf, many of which you never even see, while you're going about your day, working, caring for your family, pursuing dreams, or simply surviving. There's a spiritual realm where forces of good and evil contend over your peace, your purpose, and your future. And in that realm, God is always defending, shielding, and covering you in ways you may never realize until much later, or perhaps not at all in this life. We often think that protection means visible intervention. We expect miracles to come with fireworks, dramatic rescues, or supernatural signs. But the truth is, some of God's greatest acts of protection are silent and unseen. You didn't see the accident. That didn't happen. You didn't hear the harmful conversation that was diverted. You weren't aware of a trap set against you that never came to pass. Why? Because God handled it before it could reach you. The Bible makes it clear that there are spiritual forces at work beyond what our eyes can detect. In Ephesians 6:12, we are told that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. That's not poetic metaphor. That's spiritual reality. But you're not alone in that fight. God, through his angels, his spirit and his sovereign will, stands guard over you day and night. And not just when you pray, but even when you forget to. Think of all the times you should have been overwhelmed, broken, or destroyed by life, but you weren't. That wasn't luck. That was protection. That was God placing a hedge around you, saying to the enemy, this far and no further. Even when you weren't aware of a danger, even when you were spiritually tired, confused, or distracted, God was still on watch. He never sleeps. He never forgets. He never stops defending you. Some battles are emotional, anxiety, fear, depression, shame. These are wars that rage in the mind and heart. And yet, many times, you've experienced moments of unexplainable peace in the middle of the storm. That's not just your strength. That's God stepping in, calming the waves, lifting your breath, and pushing back the forces that want to drown you. His spirit intercedes when you can't find the words. His love surrounds you when you feel alone. His power sustains you when you feel like you can't go on. There are also battles in the form of people, individuals sent into your life to distract, deceive, or direct you from your purpose. Sometimes God removes them before you even realize their intent. Other times, he reveals their true nature just in time. That's not intuition. That's divine discernment. That's God exposing what was hidden, not to shame, but to protect. And then there are generational battles, curses, cycles, and patterns that have run through families for decades. You may not understand why certain struggles seem to follow you, but what you need to know is this. God is not just fighting for your survival. He's fighting for you. He wants to break every chain, destroy every curse, and build a new legacy through you. What he's protecting you from isn't always about the moment. It's about the future he's building through your life. So don't measure God's protection only by what you can see. Just because you don't see the war doesn't mean there's no battle. Just because you don't feel the shield doesn't mean it's not there. God's presence surrounds you like a wall of fire. His angels are encamped around you according to Psalm 34:7. He stands between you and the harm meant to destroy you. Not because you're perfect, because you're his. When you understand that God is fighting unseen battles for you, it changes how you face the visible ones. You stop panicking over every problem. You stop fearing the unknown. You start walking in peace, even when circumstances aren't peaceful, because you know deep down that you are never alone. There's something deeply frustrating about delays, whether it's a plan that falls through, a dream that's taking longer than expected, or a season where nothing seems to be moving. Delays can feel like punishment or failure. You begin to question your path. You wonder if you made a mistake, if God has forgotten you, or if you've somehow missed your moment. But here's a powerful truth that can shift your entire perspective. Delays and detours are often divine deterrents, God's way of protecting you from harm you don't yet see. When we're focused on getting to the destination, we rarely stop to think about the road. We want progress, we want answers, we want movement. But God, in his infinite wisdom, is not just interested in where you're going. He's deeply invested in how you get there and when you arrive. Because sometimes what you think is a delay is actually God keeping you from a danger that would have met you if you had been on time. Think about that. Maybe the reason the job offer was withdrawn, the move was postponed, or the relationship didn't work out was because there was something waiting ahead, something you weren't ready for, something harmful, or something that would have taken you off course entirely. From your perspective, it feels like a setback. But from God's perspective, it's a course correction, a divine detour, designed to shield you. God is not limited by time. He sees tomorrow while you're still living in today. So when he allows a delay, it's not because he's stalling or indecisive. It's because he knows that right now isn't the right time. That doesn't mean he's denying your desire. It means he's aligning your destiny. And that alignment sometimes requires a pause, a pivot, or a redirection. Think of Joseph in the book. He had dreams of leadership and greatness, but his journey was full of detours. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. From the outside it looked like his life was going backward, but in reality, every delay was positioning him closer to the place where God needed him most. By the time he stood before Pharaoh, Joseph wasn't just a dreamer. He was a man shaped by delay, tested by detour, and prepared to lead with wisdom and humility. That's what divine delays. They develop you, they refine you, they protect you from premature from entering a space your character isn't yet ready to carry, and from places where your gifting could take you, but your maturity couldn't sustain you. You see, God is more concerned with your preparation than you, because arriving too early can be just as dangerous as not arriving at all. Sometimes, detours come in the form of an unexpected opportunity that leads you away from your original plan. It might feel like a distraction, but later you realize it was God placing you in the exact environment you needed for growth. Other times it's a closed road, a firm no, an unanswered prayer, or a door that refuses to budge. And while you're standing there, frustrated or discouraged, God is quietly rerouting you to a better path, one that avoids the potholes, the wrecks, and the wrong turns that would have hurt you. There's comfort in knowing that every delay is either building something in you or protecting something around you. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, something always is. God doesn't waste time. If he's making you wait, it's because the wait is valuable. Your waiting season is not a holding cell. It's a preparation ground. Every moment is an act of love from a father who is more invested in your future than even you. So the next time a delay comes, when plans fall apart, when timelines shift, when you feel stuck, remember that you're not being protected. You're not off course. You're on his course. And the detour you didn't want may very well be the path that leads you to the very place you've been praying. What looks like a setback today may one day be the very you're thinking for, because it kept you from what you didn't see and led you to what only the opportunity that slipped away, the promotion that passed, the relationship that didn't work out at the time. It may have felt like disappointment. You may have questioned yourself, your worth, and even God. You may have wondered, why would he let this happen? But in time, and sometimes, only with hindsight, you begin to see that what looked like rejection was actually redirection, and that closed door was a divine shield, protecting you from something not meant for you. We live in a world that worships the yes. We're taught to chase every opportunity, say yes to every open door, and view access as affirmation. But here's the truth. God's no is just as powerful as his yes. In fact, sometimes, his no is the very thing that keeps you on track. Because not every invitation, and not every opportunity is aligned with your purpose. Some are distractions, some are traps, and some would only delay or damage what God is trying to build in you. It takes maturity to thank God for the doors that it takes faith to walk away from something that looks good on the outside, but doesn't feel right in your spirit. Because sometimes, the job you didn't get would have burned you out. Sometimes, the person who rejected you would have broken your spirit. Sometimes, the plan that fell apart would have led you far from the life you were truly meant to live. When a door closes, it's not always about punishment. It's often about protection. God sees the motive in the hearts of people. He knows the burdens hiding behind glamorous opportunity. He sees 5 years down the road when he can only see 5 feet. So when he closes a door, trust that it's with love, not cruelty. Trust that it's not a setback. It's a setup for something greater. One of the most powerful things you can do in life is learn to release what God removed. Because holding you would only you bitter, confused, and distracted from the next thing he wants to show you. It may take courage, it may take grief, but freedom comes when you stop asking, why didn't it work out, and start declaring, God, I trust that you know, but I don't. Think of how many tears you've shed over things you now realize were never right for you. How many times did you pray for something only to look back and say, thank you, God, for not giving me what I thought I wanted. That is wisdom. That is spiritual maturity. Not because you're not good and because what's behind that door doesn't serve your growth, your calling, or your soul. Closed doors can also be a test. Will you trust God when he doesn't explain? The way you respond to the no often shapes how ready you are for the next yes. Sometimes, God needs to see if you trust him when the answer is silence. Because it's in those moments, when nothing is working the way you thought it would, that your faith is refined. If you're facing closed doors right now, don't force them. Don't settle just to feel like you're moving. Instead, pause and ask, because behind every closed door is a loving hand guiding you towards something higher. And remember, one closed door doesn't define your future. God has unlimited doors, unlimited paths, unlimited ways to fulfill his promises in your life. If one door shuts, he can open another in an instant. And when it's the right door, it won't feel forced or anxious. It will feel like peace. So the next time you're faced with a no, take a breath. Thank God. Trust that he's doing more behind the scenes than you know. And keep moving forward, not with fear, but with confidence that every closed door is leading you closer to the right at the right time, in the right with God's protection written all over it. So today I encourage you, trust the closed doors, embrace the unexpected turns, be grateful for the delays, because God doesn't just protect you from what you fear, he protects you from what you don't even know to fear. Walk boldly, with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing this. You are divinely guarded, shielded, watched over, loved,